So after the Tekken one, I was gonna do Dead or Alive, but then I realized there aren't that many Dead or Alive games really. Most of the Dead or Alive games were like, Dead or Alive and then Dead or Alive Plus, 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 yada yada yada, and then you had Dead or Alive 2 and Dead or Alive Hardcore and Dead or Alive Ultimate, like Dead or Alive 5, Dead or Alive 5 Plus, Dead or Alive 5 Ultimate, Dead or Alive 5 Last Round. So uh, in the actual like grand scheme of things, there really weren't that many Dead or Alive games. So I thought I would do Calibur first, and then maybe later I'll do Dead or Alive. I don't know. Or maybe I'll do something a little bit different with Dead or Alive. I don't know. I like the franchise, and I do have things to say about it. So maybe. Anyway, first we have Soul Blade and Soul Edge. They're decent, honestly. Even going back to them, they're not horrible fighting games. They've obviously gotten better over time, but they're really still solid fighting games. Now, I don't really know the difference between the two gameplay wise, so I put them together. Usually this means this one's better than this one, but in this case, I don't really see a difference. But this is the one I played the most, obviously, so you know, there you go. Anyway, after that, we got Soul Calibers. We have Soul Blade and Soul Edge, and then Soul Calibur. Now, Soul Calibur, I kind of skipped because I didn't have a Sega Dreamcast when it came out. But over time, they did ports and releases, and I was able to play it, and it is a better game, definitely. Um, Still decent game. It's still a game you can go back to and still enjoy. Still a solid fighting game even today. That's the crazy thing about Soul Calibur. Like, this is a franchise that's always been a solid fighting game. Always. It's not like Tekken where like the first two were really rough. You know, Soul Calibur was always a decent, solid fighting game. Like I said, you can go back to these and still have fun with them. Um, it's crazy. And then of course you have Soul Calibur 2. I put an S because it's like the perfect game. It's like the perfect, well, I wouldn't say perfect game, but it's like the perfect Soul Calibur game. It's just I don't know I don't know what else to say about it. It's like the perfect, Soul Calibur game. Even now, like going back, it still feels good to play, and it's still fun to play, and it still has some of my favorite characters. So yeah, Soul Calibur 2, I feel like competitively it was the best game. Gameplay wise, it was the best game. It had a lot of content, a lot of characters. It was just the music was awesome. Everything was just awesome. Everything. I don't have anything really to complain about. I mean, there were a couple little jank things about it, but some of the best fighting games that have jankiness, and so I'm not one of those people. I'm not, obviously, because I put it up in there in S. And then, Soul Calibur 3. Soul Calibur 3 is a still solid fighting game. Lot of freaking content. Um, Not as good as Soul Calibur 2 overall, just but still good. Still a good game. Still felt like Soul Calibur. Um, Still enjoyed it, and I enjoy the inclusion of the addition of Zasalamel. I always thought Zasalamel was a dope design, really dope character. The interesting thing about Soul Calibur 3 is I think Soul Calibur 3 is the only Soul Calibur game after Soul Calibur 1 that doesn't have a guest character. I don't think Soul Calibur 3 had a guest character. Like Soul Calibur 2 had, your console characters. The Xbox version had Spawn, and the GameCube version had Link, and the PlayStation version had Heihachi, but I don't think Soul Calibur 3 had a guest character, which is interesting to think about. Not that it needed it, because it had character customization, it had so much going for it. It didn't really need a guest character. It's just interesting. It's just an interesting observation. Then Soul Calibur 4 came out on the PS3, and this one's weird. It's still a solid fighting game. It just felt different, kinda. Um, but still good fighting game, still decent, still just not as good as Call of Duty 2. Okay, and then the PSP game. The PSP game, the reason why I put that there is because technically it's just Soul Calibur 4, right? Let's be honest, it's technically just Soul Calibur 4. But instead of Star Wars characters, you got God of War, the Kratos from God of War. And then this is where Damn, Dampier, whatever the his name is. That's where he shows up. He shows up in Soul Calibur Broken Destiny originally, which is why him being included as a download content character in the next game was kind of a letdown. Um, but even though it's still technically just Soul Calibur, it felt different. It did feel different to me. Um, and I actually kind of enjoyed this one more than this one, to be honest. Anyway, so on to the next one. Soul Calibur 5. So Soul Calibur 5 is still, again, it's still a good, like, solid fighting game. It really is. It's just not the Soul Calibur that I was hoping for, and a lot of fans were hoping for, you know. But if you play it as just a fighting game, it's very solid 3D fighting game. It really is. It's not a bad fighting game. I just, as a Soul Calibur fan, was let down by one. I didn't understand why a character that was already in the game ended up being um, DLC. Of course, now we're used to it. It's normal now, but back then it was kind of let down. Uh, the roster in general was a bit of a letdown to me. The story was kind of whack to me. Um, the character customization was okay, I guess. I just, I don't know. It just felt off. It felt off as a Soul Calibur game, right? As a Soul Calibur game, it felt off. As a core, like just as a fighting game, it's still solid. It's still a solid fighting game, right? Like it's not a bad fighting game in the least at all. It just didn't. It just felt off as a Soul Calibur game. Um, but to say that it's a bad game would be very unfair. You know, really unfair because I still, it still had its moments. It's just it didn't feel. There are a lot of characters that weren't in it that I got used to in Soul Calibur 2 and 3 and 4, and then Soul Calibur 5 got rid of most of those characters, and I was like, damn it. Um, but it's still on its own a decent. It was still a solid fighting game. Siegfried was pretty dope in this game. Um, it's just it was weird. And Soul Calibur 6 is a good fighting game, a great fighting game. Probably one of the better Soul Calibur games in my personal opinion. Um, in the in the old school like Soul Calibur 2, Soul Calibur 3, um, my main character was Talim. Um, a lot of the characters I've been playing in a lot of my videos, I've been playing because they kind of fit my whole like punchy theme. But I also like characters with mobility and mix-ups. That's why while I like Miguel and Leroy, I also like Xiaoyu because I like her mix-ups. I like how tricky she is. Same thing in the Virtual Fighter, right? Like I like Brad, but I also like Eileen because again, tricky. Um, and then in Soul Calibur, uh, I'm that's how I feel about Talim, right? Like there are other characters that I like in the game, but I really like Talim because of her trickiness, how she can, her mobility, her mix-ups, and they really accentuated that in Soul Calibur 6. Not only did they bring back Talim, which I was hype about, but they made her even better than she ever was, and I definitely appreciated that. They brought back a lot of our classic characters that we liked from the classic games and just buffed the crap out of them, and that was dope, and I appreciate that. I didn't have a problem as much of a problem with the guest characters as I did with Tekken and Mortal Kombat, mainly because if I remember correctly, there weren't that many guest characters, and the guest characters we did have made sense, right? Freaking, they made me like freaking Gerald here makes sense. Uh, how Maru makes sense. Uh, to be well for the game that for what Soul Calibur 6 is, to be made sense. Uh, 2B makes a lot more sense than Noctis and Tekken and Megan and Tekken. So yeah, um, uh, 2B makes more sense than RoboCop and freaking you know Leatherface in Mortal Kombat, right? Like it works better than that, so I'll accept it. Still a great game. I think the only thing that kept it from being ass though, what was it? Maybe it is the guest characters, because we live in a time where it's something you just got to get used to. I get that, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. You know what I'm saying? Soul Calibur always had guest characters, right? Since Soul Calibur 2. Um, so I'll cut them some slack with it, but I'm trying to remember why did I put it. I know I put it in A. I was why the hell did I not put it in S? You know what? I think it's because even I will admit that some of the mechanics are a little bit overcomplicated, right? Um, you gotta activate soul charge to get access to extra moves, and you have your meters to worry about, and there are a lot of little things that almost make it too much, almost. As a fan of games like Tekken and Killer Instinct, I figured it out, but I can it's still a little bit of just it's like extra. It's just extra stuff you have to worry about. Soul Calibur 2 is perfect in so many ways. This game is great. It's just a little much. Just a little much. If they dial back some of the stuff, I think it would have easily made it would have made S a little bit easier. Um, I think that's what it was. Customization was I don't know, man. Soul Calibur customization always felt weird to me. Um, so and Soul Calibur 3, it was cool. There was something about it that worked. And then Soul Calibur from Soul Calibur 4 to Soul Calibur 6, it just I don't know. There's something about it that just felt off. The character creation, but it's not bad, right? Like being able to create your own character is always awesome, and being able to customize characters is always awesome. It's just I feel like they they didn't do enough in the character customization realm of things. I guess um, it almost felt like a step back. I guess if that makes sense. The roster was awesome though. I love the roster of Soul Calibur 6 a lot more than the roster in Soul Calibur 5. Um, but it still doesn't have Lizard Man. No Lizard Man, no Aeon, no nothing. That's crazy. Anyway, yeah. Did I do? Oh yeah, I put this one down here because what the hell was this? Can anybody tell me what the hell this was? Right, Lost Swords, some weird single player online only Soul Calibur mobile game on PlayStation Network. What the hell was that? It was not a good idea. Not a good idea. And that's why I put that down here because I put it in C and not D and not F because the core gameplay was just literally just Soul Calibur 5. Right? So it wasn't bad core gameplay. The core gameplay wasn't bad. It was just kind of a dumb idea, right? Like it's a fighting game but it's single player and it's only online. It's like I mean it's free to play but still like it was just super weird for a fighting game. Didn't make sense. But the core gameplay wasn't bad, right? It was Soul Calibur. But yeah, my history with Soul Calibur has been constant, really. Um, Ever since Soul Calibur 2, I have been on it. I got Soul Calibur 3 when it came out. I got Soul Calibur 4 when it came out. Soul Calibur 5. Hell, I pre-ordered Soul Calibur 5 with the art book and everything, and then Soul Calibur 6 I got when it came out. So, whenever they ported Soul Calibur 4 to Xbox, I got it. Whenever they ported the Soul Calibur 2 HD, they came out with that one, the online HD Online, I got it. So, I was always there. I was always there playing Soul Calibur, especially after Soul Calibur 2. Um, and I've always loved, well, I always liked the series. I always enjoyed the series. Um, Thanks to games like Soul Calibur 2, or thanks to games like Soul Calibur, Tekken, Dead or Alive, I um I became a huge fan of 3D fighters. Huge. Which is why you see me playing those and talking about those a lot more than 2D fighters. And the 2D fighters I do talk about are what? Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct, because those are my favorite. Um, for me, that you know what I'm saying, that's where my focus was when it came to fighting games. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't play other fighting games. And I'll probably get into those. Uh, Especially, I was thinking of doing a Street Fighter one. Because I did play a lot of Street Fighter games, not anywhere near as much as these other games, but I still played them, and so I still have experience with them. Um, I'm not gonna do King of Fighters because I don't have a lot of experience with King of Fighters. There's a few games that I did play, and I did enjoy going back and playing them, but it still wasn't a lot. It was, I didn't play when I was a kid. We dabbled in Fatal Fury a couple times, but it was, you know, I didn't spend a whole lot of time playing anything King of Fighters or SNK until years later, many years later. So I don't think I would do King of Fighters, but I do want to do Street Fighter. Um, I think that's about it. Cause like I said, Killer Instinct there's three games. Wow, right? Uh, I might do Dead or Alive. Cause like I said, there weren't a lot of Dead or Alive games, but I might do Dead or Alive. I'm still thinking about it. And then I have some actual gameplay playing too, so don't worry. This isn't my new. This is just something I wanted to do real quick, get it out of the way. But yeah, that's my Soul Calibur tier list. I feel pretty good about it. I feel pretty good about it. Like I said, I really like Soul Calibur 6, uh, but I feel like it gets an A because there, a couple tiny little things, nitpicks, and I just feel like Soul Calibur 2 was just such a perfect, it was perfection, or damn near close to it, right? Anyway, yeah.